this was a payment to avoid personal embarrassment. And frankly, Donald Trump could say, I've been paying off women for years, long before I ever started running for president. This actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, this is what the New York Times leads with in their main coverage of this today. Prosecutors say Trump directed illegal payments during campaign. So involving two women, McDougal and Stormy Daniels, $150,000, $130,000, one payment made to buy the rights to Karen McDougal's story from American media, and the other a direct payment. And you know what I go back to, and this is just this question that's not it's somewhat related here, but why hire Michael Cohen? I mean, again, I don't know Michael Cohen. I've talked to him like once or twice, but why is Michael Cohen working at all for Donald Trump? I mean, why is he in a position of any authority? I don't get that.
He was Trump's fix-it guy for over 10 years.
Well, he didn't do a very good job fixing things. He didn't do a good. And look, to Byron's point, if there is a pattern here of the Trump organization making payments to entities or individuals over the last 10 or 20 or 30 years, and no one knows that, then this is a nothing. And this is Michael Cohen trying to plead out to something that he either has a history of doing in the past, or we know has transpired in the past, and we'll find out if that's the case. But this is Michael trying to save himself, because it looks like he's going to go to jail for north of 4 years.
Let me just read something, Byron. I'll get you in a second. This is in the Southern District's filing today, and it just sums up the kind of guy Michael Cohen is. And like, we're in Washington, and there are a lot of sleazy people in D.C., okay? But this is kind of amazing. Cohen, an attorney and a businessman, committed 4 distinct federal crimes over a period of several years. He was motivated to do so by personal greed and repeatedly used his power and influence for deceptive ends. The crimes committed by Cohen were more serious than his submission allows and were marked by a pattern of deception that permeated his professional life and was evidently hidden from the friends and family members who wrote on his behalf. Now, this is all going to be one-sided because it's all coming from the prosecutor, and I'm an old defense attorney, so I'm very wary of you prosecutors. But you've got to rely on him to make the case against the president. Yeah. And Joe diGenova, you rely on a snake like Michael Cohen. It happens. It happens in mob cases. You rely on criminals to give up the goods on, on John Gotti.
Well, first of all, they're not going to be making a case against the President of the United States, no matter what their evidence is, because the Justice Department has ruled that you cannot indict a sitting president. They ruled twice on that, once in a Democratic administration under Bill Clinton and once in the Nixon administration. But it's very important to realize what the prosecutors said in those pleadings. They said that Michael Cohen violated the law and that he was, according to them, was instructed by, number one, the candidate to make the payments. They didn't say that the candidate told him to make illegal payments. They were very careful not to say that the candidate instructed him to violate the law. It's a very, very important part of the pleading. They have not alleged that the President of the United States violated the law. They've alleged that Michael Cohen did.
Yeah, well, again, I think the president not being charged is different from what the Democrats are hoping for, perhaps, is for the president to be dealt with in the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Let's watch.
And they can do that.
Where is this going to go? It's going to go, it seems to me, with the president being indicted, or at least up to that point, and it's going to go to Congress taking on a very serious and very, very appropriate investigation, and you might call it the opening days of an impeachment.
I think what this totality of today's filings show that the House is going to have little choice the way this is going other than to start impeachment proceedings.
I think that a lot of Democrats will tell you that as of today, they now already have enough to go forward with that. When Michael Cohen pleaded, he said he had made these payoffs at the president's direction, but that was just Michael Cohen saying that. Now they're going to say you have federal prosecutors saying the president committed to felonies.
The weight of the Justice Department.
There you go. And that is going to be enough. And so I think there's going to be a serious number of Democrats, they're still a month away from being sworn in, a serious number of Democrats who say the case has already been made.
Corey.
Look, Michael has no credibility. We're now seeing that he made $4 million from corporations who wanted access to Donald Trump and said Michael didn't deliver anything. You know, he's a serial liar. We know he lied to Congress. He's now pled guilty to that crime. He was lying to the investigators, and he wanted to save himself. So if the Democrats think they're going to move on impeachment on the President of the United States on the word of Michael Cohen, they will see the repercussions of that at the ballot box in 2020.
You know, Michael Cohen is the lawyer that Trump chose for 10 years to represent him, just as Manafort was the campaign chairman that he chose. I mean, this is...
They're two bad choices.
This is a lot of Trump's own making, and I think that we have to be realistic.
It doesn't mean he's committed a crime. Having bad judgment in whom you hire. We've all hired people we regret, believe me.
But they're going to say a lot of things, Laura, and they're going to be corroborated. This didn't get this far without them having corroboration records, tapes. One of the people we haven't heard about is the National Enquirer head. If you believe that Mueller is smart enough, this is not his first rodeo, to put in clues and not put in clues, how about the things that aren't in there? How about the fact that there's no discussion of this fellow at the National Enquirer?
What about him, David Peck? What about him?
Probably because he's working with the investigators. And there's other people who it appears have been left out or minimized or kept in the redacted or under seal portions who are probably working and providing a lot of corroboration to the investigation. So I think we have to be realistic.
I got to say, I'm not saying I hear what you're saying, but I'm not seeing it so far. I'm really not. And Joe DeGenova,
let me tell you something.
We could sit here all night and speculate about this.
The one person who's worrying tonight is Tony Podesta, and the other person is Gregory Craig, because that's where the cooperation has been, and they're finally looking at a Democrat. And it is Tony Podesta's failure to file as a foreign agent and Gregory Craig's failure to file as a foreign agent. That's what they're looking at. That's what much of this is about the unsealed portions.
John Roberts, Joe has, our own John Roberts has reported that in fact that was part of what was in those redacted portions referencing those two.
Right.
Jonathan Turley spoke out earlier today about what the special counsel now is going to be trying to do anew with Michael Cohen. Let's watch.
It's clear with Cohen that this is not the end for Cohen. They're dangling out what's called a 5K 1.1 letter, which is basically a cooperation letter. And they come back repeatedly and say, you don't have that letter. And so what they're doing is essentially turning this into a canned hunt. They're going to hit him with a sentence. The only way he's out of that cage is if he tells them what they want to hear. But that actually is concerning to me, because here's a guy who's obviously cooperating fully. They say he's credible. So what else did they want him to say?
David, I got to get on this, because this is why people, really dislike certain prosecutors. He has given information. He's been interviewed 7 times by the special counsel, I think at least. And you hear what he said there? They're trying to get him to what they want him to say. Paul Manafort's been sitting in solitary confinement. The most hardened criminals in the United States aren't in solitary confinement. They put that man in solitary confinement. He's only out 2 hours a day because he hasn't given them what they want him to say about Trump. I find this to be appalling. And everyone watching this show right now should realize U.S. prosecutors do this every day to people. They do it, not the solitary confinement as much, but they turn these screws on individuals, a lot of people who don't have as much money as these individuals, to fight it. But they do this every day because people are petrified. They don't want to spend the rest of their life rotting in jail. And it's a tool and it's a tactic, and sometimes it's for good, I understand. But in this case, especially with this Manafort deal, I find it repulsive what they've done with him.
Well, I'm a federal criminal defense attorney right now, and I think one of the great things for your viewers that this Trump incident, whatever you want to call it, these 2 years of Trump, have shown the nation is that our federal criminal laws are in great need of reform. And this idea that they're going to squeeze Michael Cohen, maybe he'll tell them the truth, but the fear is maybe he won't. And they're obviously going to give him another shot. After his sentencing to 3 or 4 years, they're going to get what they call a Rule 35, which is a way that the federal prosecutors say to a judge, you know what, he's cooperated with us since his sentencing. Now you should give him a big reduction. And what an impeachment of a witness that now he's facing 3 or 4 years, probably getting a stay of surrender during that, and now he grasps out, provides some information. And how do you judge the credibility of that as probably not credible? He better have corroboration.
I'm going to say again, and very interesting, where's the Russian collusion?
The thing to remember about Cohen and Manafort are special cases because they are the ones who committed big personal crimes in their businesses. They were both basically convicted
financial
of
crimes.
Evading taxes in large sums. That's what they're going to get the big jail time for.
They all get the mob for tax evasion. You get them for tax evasion, wire fraud, 1001 statements, etc.
A false statement. We have one guy who's gotten 30 days, another guy who's gotten 14 days.
And we have
Michael
Huma
Flynn, who will
Abedin.
likely